Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you about a little trick with chords from the Barry Harris method, or from his way of thinking about harmony. If you don't know, Barry Harris is a great pianist, a great educator, with a very particular, unique view on harmony, and there's some of his students that are quite famous. Pasquale Grasso at the moment would be one of them, who was very influenced by this way of thinking. I'm not going too deep into that because, quite frankly, I don't know that much about it, but I know this little exercise for chords regarding a major scale that's really useful to know. This exercise kind of starts with a particular problem on the guitar we have sometimes. The problem being, if we sometimes have 2 bars of a major chord, or however many bars, and we want to harmonize the major scale over it with a melody note on top of the chord, we run into a little bit of trouble there. So let's say you have the C major 7 chord. Okay, there's a drop 2 voicing, C major 7, all cool. And now this gives us E as the melody note. So now if we play the next inversion of this chord, it would be this, which gives us in the melody a G, which is fine. But if you wanted to play the whole scale up and down, like for example the melody requires that, we would have missed the F there. So you could say, well, you could go like this and move that out, but that's not a particularly great sounding chord. A C major 7 with the natural 11th there. That gives us a few intervals we might not want to. Then we go further and we have the same issue. If you go from here to the next inversion, we kind of leaving out the A again. There seems to be notes that we're missing out, and that might not sound great all the time if we move that finger. We're also losing a bit of movement. If you wanted to do that, you would go. This little trick from the Barry Harris method is something that I found really cool to know. So where do we start? We start with the Barry Harris scale, which is basically a major scale with a sharp 5. So if you have C major, all we're adding is a sharp 5. Okay. This gives several things to that scale, but most importantly, it lets us split this scale into 2 different chords. And we do that by not really truthfully stacking thirds. We do that for a bit, but kind of selecting every second note in that scale. So if we do that from C, we get the notes C, E, G, and then the second next note would be A. Usually stacking thirds we would go to a B natural, but in this case we're getting an A, because we have that G sharp. So what that gives us is a C major 6 chord, which is great. It's a great tonic chord, it's a nice chord. Often the melody note is the one as well at the end of a tune, so it's good to know that chord. But more importantly is the second chord as well, because if we do the same thing from the second degree of that scale, of the C Barry Harris scale, we start from D and we get the notes D, F, G sharp or A flat, and B natural, which gives us this chord, a D diminished chord. What this gives you the option is playing inversion, or like playing like C major 6, then for the next degree of the scale, a D diminished chord, and we get this F that we previously didn't get with the chord. We get this in the melody now. Then the next chord is the inversion of the C major 6, or like it's also an inversion of an A minor 7. It doesn't really matter in this case how you look at it. We get this. Then the next chord on the F in the bass, we gotta get a diminished chord because it repeats every minor third. That's perfect. Then on G we get the major 6 chord again. Then on G sharp we get the diminished chord again. On A the major 6. On B the diminished. And our first chord, major 6. So you get a harmonization through the whole scale with a lot of movement, because this diminished chord really beautifully moves the thing along into the next chord. If you play that together, you get something like. If you're wondering where this is useful, there are standards like There Will Never Be Another You, where we have 2 bars of a major chord and kind of a very linear major scale as the melody. We start. Okay, And we can use that. If we do that very slowly, I do exactly the same thing with pretty much drop 2 voicings and go with the major scale with changing from a major 6 chord to a diminished chord. So we get. Let's see if I can do that a bit faster and better. And so on. You could do that for the minor chord obviously as well. It's the same harmony, but suddenly you have this thing where otherwise you would kind of try to move the melody along with the chord you already played. It's just not as nice. It's not the same moving thing. It's a simple thing. We're adding one note to that scale, and obviously there's a whole universe behind it, which I don't know much about it. But this idea of having this diminished chord in it, which helps us harmonizing a major scale, is super, super helpful. And I hope you find use of it, especially for kind of old school Broadway standards. It happens quite a lot that we have a chord for 2 bars with a major scale moving in steps, which can be a bit of a tricky thing to harmonize nicely. But with this, you definitely have an option, okay? I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please check out the other videos. Hope I see you soon. Take it easy. Bye.